Support for AZPM comes from Hughes Federal Credit Union, a local not-for-profit cooperative offering 17-month and 30-month jumbo certificate accounts with other tiered options to diversify financial portfolios. Details are at hughesfcu.org/elevate, member NCUA.
Welcome to AZPM News Daily, a wrap-up of all the day's news from Arizona Public Media. I'm Steve Jess, and on this edition, is civil discourse dead, or should we just ignore the trolls?
That's really a small number compared to all of us.
Budget cuts threaten our water quality.
Building infrastructure that serves communities requires federal subsidy.
And celebrating irises, the orchids of the desert.
This is like walking through a rainbow every day. It's just an explosion of color.
Starting off today's podcast, the shooting death of political commentator Charlie Kirk on Wednesday is prompting a new discussion about civil discourse. Tony Perkins explains.
The hours immediately following Kirk's shooting was marked by a flood of toxic comments on social media. Keith Allred runs the University of Arizona-backed nonprofit National Institute for Civil Discourse in Washington, D.C. He notes the actual number of people expressing the most extreme rhetoric represents only dozens or maybe hundreds of online users.
But that's really a small number compared to all of us who completely abhor this, whether our views are left, right, or center.
Allred says the impact of social media makes what looks like a general decline in civility seem worse than it really is. I'm Tony Perkins, AZPM News.
You can hear the complete interview with Keith Allred about civil discourse on our website, news.azpm.org. In a related story, following the Charlie Kirk assassination, Governor Katie Hobbs says it's her responsibility as an elected official to help tone down the rhetoric. She's calling on all elected leaders to reject political violence.
Every elected leader needs to focus on our role in toning down or even shaping the political discourse and how we can come together to reject this kind of extremist political violence that we're seeing.
The governor says Kirk, who was an Arizona resident, built a movement that inspired people across the country, and she expressed a sadness for his family and friends. Budget cuts to the Environmental Protection Agency could affect water quality in Arizona, according to the Environmental Defense Fund. Katya Mendoza has more on that.
Besides a lack of AC and exposure to serious toxins, Mayor's office says 6th Avenue Suites apartments, Spanish Trail Suites, Oasis apartments, and Eucalyptus apartments subjected their residents to exposed wires, rodent and pest infestations, and broken windows, roof tiles, and doorways. The cease and desist said the neglect and endangerment may violate state tenant and consumer protection laws. Mays' office says she sent the letter to the 4 properties in Tucson and City of South Tucson on August 29th and requested any AC issues be fixed by September 5th and all other hazards by September 12th. Her office continues to demand proof of the repairs. I'm Danielle Camara, AZPM News.
Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays has issued cease and desist letters to 4 Tucson-area apartment buildings over dangerous living conditions, including a lack of air conditioning, rampant mold growth, asbestos exposure, and a host of other serious health and safety issues. Danielle Camara has more on that.
Besides a lack of AC and exposure to serious toxins, Mayor's office says 6th Avenue Suites apartments, Spanish Trail Suites, Oasis apartments, and Eucalyptus apartments subjected their residents to exposed wires, rodent and pest infestations, and broken windows, roof tiles, and doorways. The cease and desist said the neglect and endangerment may violate state tenant and consumer protection laws. Mays' office says she sent the letter to the 4 properties in Tucson and City of South Tucson on August 29th and requested any AC issues be fixed by September 5th and all other hazards by September 12th. Her office continues to demand proof of the repairs. I'm Danielle Camara, AZPM News.
Gas prices continue to rise in Arizona with an average price of $3.56. That's 7 cents higher than last week. A spokesman with AAA, the Auto Club, blames the continuing supply squeeze as refinery maintenance season triggers a switch from summer to winter blended fuel. Once that transition is complete, prices should come back down. What you pay for gasoline in Arizona depends on where you buy it, of course. Maricopa County is the highest at $3.84. Greenlee County is the lowest at $2.95. Mexico says it's cracking down on fuel theft networks and plans to arrest more people who officials blame for stealing and smuggling oil and gas. The announcement comes after a recent meeting between U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum. The State Department said after the meeting, the two countries would work more closely on a variety of security issues, including preventing fuel theft. Mexico has already arrested a senior Mexican Navy officer, along with business leaders and government officials who police say are connected to a massive fuel theft earlier this year. Sheinbaum defended the Mexican Navy's investigations process this week after a question at a press conference suggesting the recent death of a member of the Navy in Puerto Peñasco could be related to the crackdown. In the 1960s, a couple of people formed the Tucson Area Iris Society, and decades later, the organization is still growing and thriving. As Tony Paniagua reports, you'll be able to learn more about these historic plants this coming Saturday.
Iris flowers have been recorded in drawings for thousands of years, going back to ancient civilizations in southern Europe. In present-day Arizona, the plants continue to amaze and inspire.
Iris are named after the Greek goddess of the rainbow, and so this is like walking through a rainbow every day. It's just an explosion of color.
That's Kevin Karchner at his prolific Tucson garden earlier this year, where one could see thousands of individual flowers.
I just love growing iris.
Karchner is the president of the Tucson Area Iris Society.
We're celebrating our 60th anniversary, and so going back to 1965, and we've been an active gardening group ever since.
Among other activities, members share or sell rhizomes, the underground root-like stems that create new plants.
Our mission is to spread the good word of iris throughout the community. So, according to our bylaws, we're responsible for putting on shows and having sales where we make rhizomes available to people and educate them about how to grow these things. They're actually very desert-tolerant plants, and we have a lot that do just fine in Tucson, actually thrive.
Karchner is a retired engineer and an avid gardener. He enjoys an assortment of different plant species, but feels an affinity for the showy iris flowers.
I like to call them desert orchids, not that they have any relationship, but they're something that's spectacular that can be grown here in the desert.
Joyce Nill is another active member in the group who also has a large collection of these springtime blooming plants. Nill grew up on a farm in Minnesota and recalls the many iris and other flora on her family's property. Nature is a childhood memory that continues to influence.
I've always felt that I needed to save the world one plant at a time. So it doesn't matter if it's an ice plant or a lily or a prickly pear or plumeria from Hawaii. I just love plants, and I like to see something blooming every month of the year. So when I do my plant selection, I select by color, but I also select when is it going to bloom for me.
For Nill and others, iris are dependable bloomers in our desert region's gardens. They're resistant to many pests and other problems, and most do not need humid, wet conditions.
I grow a number of different irises. I grow Spurria irises, which may go dormant. I grow tall beardeds, which is what most people grow. I grow Louisiana irises, which grow in water or in a bog situation. But one of my favorite irises is called a standard dwarf bearded iris. 6 inches tall to about 10 inches tall. They're little and they're sweet, and they work for small gardens or even flower pots. You can stick them in flower pots. They're really pretty.
If you'd like to know more about growing irises in Arizona, the Tucson Area Iris Society is holding one of its major annual events this Saturday at Harlow Gardens Nursery. The 2025 rhizome sale includes information about propagation, soil, fertilizing, and water use. You can get more details at tucsoniris.org or on our website, news.azpm.org. Tony Paniagua, AZPM News.
And now you're caught up on the stories we've covered today at Arizona Public Media. Thanks for listening. You can subscribe to AZPM News Daily wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Steve Jess, and we'll be back tomorrow.
Support for AZPM comes from Hughes Federal Credit Union, a local not-for-profit offering tiered options to diversify financial portfolios, such as 17-month and 30-month jumbo certificate accounts. Details are at hughesfcu.org/elevate, member NCUA.